Over to Mr. Agnew for 3 minutes.
Please, John.
Thank you. Well, now, there are a number of consumers who insist that their food is grown in a certain way. There are a number of farmers who are prepared to produce their crops and their livestock according to these restrictions, but they demand a higher price to compensate them for the higher costs incurred. Willing buyer, willing seller, the customer is always right. These should be the mantras here, and it should ideally go no further than this. Unfortunately, organic farming methods have acquired an aura of sainthood on the left of the political spectrum because they imply a reduced opportunity for large corporations to make profits from supplying inputs. And of course, this is in direct contradiction to another aim of the left, which is that food should be as affordable as possible to those on low incomes. A further complication in trying to legislate on rules and standards on organic produce across the culture zones of the EU is that perceptions of organic farming can vary. Some insist on total purity, whereas others are more pragmatic if total purity means a very high cost or no organic food at all. A good example of this is the use of raised beds in Scandinavia to avoid brutal ground frosts, so presumably global warming is going to solve this problem for us. Here in the European Parliament, our job is to legislate, which includes legislation on agricultural matters. In the last few years, I've witnessed a very determined effort here to ban various synthetic pesticides from being used. This is done in the name of safety for human health and safety for the environment. However, this zeal fades away when the debate turns to naturally occurring pesticides. One of these, used by organic farmers, is copper sulfate, a material that is highly toxic, may cause cancer, is known to damage fertility and human organs. So these are the wonders it does for human health, but the environment doesn't get away unscathed either, because copper sulfate is a bioaccumulant that slowly builds up in the soil. Strangely, the Commission has just reapproved its use in organic farming. So I think, Commissioner, as you're here, we can have a deal, because if you are going to approve copper sulfate for use by organic farmers, I really feel you should be able to approve the use of neonicotinoid seed dressings for use on crops that do not flower before they're harvested. Do we have a deal here? One of the difficulties in legislating in this area is a prejudiced assumption that if a material is natural, it follows that it must be good. Those of us who dwell in the countryside are keenly aware of the dangers of ergot, deadly nightshade, ragwort and hemlock. Another anomaly is trying to set a standard across the European Union is that the underlying assumption that organic produce will be traded across the EU. Why have common rules otherwise? However, if you talk to organic organisations, they want to promote local food. They talk about air miles in a negative way, so we have another contradiction here. And during my 8 years here, I have heard all sorts of dire warnings about GM crops and factory farming, but the two big crises were horse meat, described as beef, and of course 31 people tragically dying from eating organically grown bean sprouts. Thank you.